Happy Wednesday, everybody. Hope you're having a good day today so far. I hope you had a good weekend and a good holiday. I enjoyed my weekend. I finally got 2 days off because of the holiday, and I am off today because my stepmom is having surgery. She's having her cataracts removed on her eye. So I didn't go to work. I stayed home today. So a little bit of break. It's kind of nice. I'm not used to getting time off. I did, I let everybody know at work a few weeks in advance, that today I was not going to be able to come into work. And, so like when someone misses, and I know we're shorthanded already, which is why everybody's working so much, but when we're shorthanded, it's the job of everybody that's there to come together and take on the extra load and get everything done. And we do that for everybody. When one of my pressers went to Mexico and was gone for almost a month, we covered for her. When another presser took a week vacation, we covered for her. And so when, I reminded them yesterday that I would not be here today and that someone would need to press pants in my place, they were like, we don't want to do it. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, well, you have to, because we do it for y'all when y'all miss. And, nobody just puts your stuff to the side and lets it pile up until you get back for you to finish when you come back. We do the work for you. That's how it works. And so I went ahead yesterday, since I was there all day, I went ahead and pressed pants that came in yesterday that are due today. And I think it's like 30, 35 pairs. But I can't stay back there forever. And so there was like 47 pairs left. And so normally the way it works is anything that comes in after 9 a.m. is processed the next day and ready the next day. And then anything that comes in before 9 is processed same day. So I told them, whatever comes in Wednesday morning, don't worry about that. You don't have to do same day. Just do what comes in on Tuesday after 9. And that's 47 pairs. And they were like, we're not going to do it. And I texted them and I said, look, you're going to do it. Because I'm not going to come in on Thursday morning and do 47 pairs from Wednesday. From Thursday. All of the pants from Wednesday. And then all the pants from Thursday before 9 a.m. On the average of what I'm getting daily, that's going to be between 150 and 170 pairs of pants. And I'm not going to do all that by myself when I have to work all day. Not doing it. And so they will feel my wrath if I get there tomorrow morning and they left those pants for me, because I will not press anything and I will stop pressing and I will go back to just doing my job, which is not a presser. I will stop helping. I feel like I've given them the idea that is my job and that it's not something I do to help, but I'm getting to the point. I know I've put out there on my Twitter and stuff, like, how do you deal with employees that just don't want to do what they're told, that complain about doing extra work, and, how do you deal with them? And I think the best way to deal with them is just say, well, then I'm just not going to do it anymore. Figure it out amongst yourselves. You're lucky you have somebody that'll get back there, teach themselves how to press so that they can help you. Anyway, I'm very agitated about that, if you can't tell. So, let's move on. Today's daily promise says, let your conversation be without covetousness, and be content with such things as ye have. For he hath said, I will never leave thee, nor forsake thee. Hebrews 13:5. Never are you alone, O Christian, for the Lord of heaven promises his presence in all times. No matter the state of your heart, he is there. His love for his children is forever, and he will never forsake the child for whom he has given all. He is long-suffering, and his love is persistent. Embrace your loving Father and go your way in righteousness. I feel like, sorry if I cough or something, I've been kind of sick with sinus congestion. I feel like that's a good one for right now, because there's a lot happening, some tragedies taking place, and it's just some sad times have really taken place, especially with the Texas school shooting in Uvalde, and then, just a few weeks before that, the shooting in Buffalo. But the one here in Texas I was really getting irritated when I was watching Louder with Crowder, and we were going over the Uvalde timeline. And when you go through the timeline of what happened that morning, piece by piece, and realize that lots of lives could have been saved, but they weren't, due to, as Steven Crowder said, weak, cowardice men, that really angers me. It truly does. So, we're going to go over that timeline. I want to share that because I don't know how many people watch Louder with Crowder, and there's all kinds of different information. And so, all the sources are available for where all of this is coming from. But I just want to break down the timeline. So from their show notes, the Texas Department of Public Safety, Lieutenant Chris Oliveira, said police engaged with the gunman as he entered the school. But the next day, Lieutenant Oliveira said there was no such interaction. So this is what we know transpired. At approximately 11 a.m., the shooter posted on Facebook that he was going to shoot his grandmother. And he did, and then fled in his grandmother's truck. And the grandmother called 911. That's the first 911 call. Approximately 11:15 a.m., he posted on Facebook his plan to shoot up a school. Then 11:27 a.m., video showed a door to the school was propped open. 11:28 a.m., he crashed the truck near the school. A teacher saw the crash and went inside to call 911, which was the second call made, leaving the door open. Now, I don't think the teacher that saw that crash knew that he was armed. I think she just saw someone crashed and so went to call 911 to alert them that there had been a crash. But she did leave the door open. I don't know if it was a woman or a man teacher. Their identity is being hidden. So 2 nearby men approached the vehicle until they saw that he was armed. The gunman fired at the men, but neither of them were injured. At 11:30 a.m., 911 was called and the crash was reported. So that was that second call made. 11:31 a.m., police arrived but didn't initially see the gunman. The gunman proceeded to shoot at the school from behind cars in the parking lot. I don't know how the police get there at 11:31, but they don't see the gunman, but he's firing his gun. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. 11:33 a.m., the gunman entered the school through the door that was left open by the teacher. He proceeded to fire more than 100 rounds, evidenced by available audio, and entered into either room 111 or 112. Earlier reports stated that the gunman was initially met and engaged by a school resource officer, but this information was later proven false. 11:35 a.m., 3 officers entered the school through the same door. They briefly exchanged fire with the shooter, 2 were grazed, and then 4 more officers entered the school soon after. At some point between the first shots and the second burst, a code black was announced in the cafeteria. Employees reportedly didn't even know what that meant. It gets wilder. 11:37 a.m., the gunman fired 16 more rounds. 11:43 a.m., the school broadcasted over Facebook that they were in lockdown. 11:51 a.m., more police arrived. 11:54 a.m., parents and police gathered outside the building. Cops even pepper sprayed and cuffed parents that were trying to get into the school to get their kids because the cops were just standing there doing nothing, as evidenced by all the videos we've seen. 12:03 p.m., approximately 19 officers were inside the school. 3 911 calls were made from inside the classroom where the shooter was by a female student. One, which is the third call made to 911, was at 12:03, the fourth call at 12:10, and the fifth call at 12:13 p.m. The student reported multiple people were dead. At 12:11 p.m., an officer announced to parents that students would be moved to the nearby funeral home for reunifications. the ones that had already been escorted out of the school. 12:15 p.m., Border Patrol Tactical Unit members began arriving. 12:16 and 12:19 p.m., the same student dialed 911, which would be the 6th and 7th calls to 911. 12:17 p.m., the school posted on Facebook that there was an active shooter. So, almost an hour later, they're finally announcing an active shooter. 12:21 p.m., the shooter began firing again, possibly at the door. 12:30 p.m., the school announced on Facebook that reunification would be at the high school. 12:36 p.m., the female student from inside the classroom called 911, which is the 8th call, and was told to stay on the line. At 12:43 and 12:47 p.m., she told them to send police now. At 12:40 p.m., the school posted to Facebook to change the reunification location to the Civic Center. At 12:50 p.m., police finally got the key to unlock the door because you can't go in through a window, right? They opened the door and shot and killed the shooter. Conclusion, the Uvalde police failed miserably to handle the active shooter situation, even after having performed training only a handful of weeks prior to the shooting. According to the New York Times, the training stated that, quote, the officer's first priority is to move in and confront the attacker. Officers failed to act out of fear of being shot, but the Uvalde training explicitly stated, quote, as first responders, we must recognize that innocent life must be defended, and a first responder unwilling to place the lives of the innocent above their own safety should consider another career field. And you had 19 officers unwilling to defend and protect innocent children. It is aggravating. They should all be fired, period. They should not be police officers if they are not willing to go in and do the job that they signed up to do. Obviously, you don't want to get shot and you want to be able to go home to your family. But you signed up for that job. Your training told you that that is your job, is to stand between someone trying to kill somebody and the innocent person they're trying to kill. And if that means that you die in the process, well, that's the job you signed up for, and that's what you're supposed to do. And 19 men were unwilling to do it. Weak, cowardice men. And I would blame that on society. Building weak men from the ground up. Talking about toxic masculinity and that, you know, especially with straight men, white straight men, telling them that they're toxic, that they're misogynist, that they're part of the patriarchy, and, you know, dehumanizing them and making them feel bad for being masculine. And we're teaching young men to be cowards, to not protect innocent life, to not, it's just, this is a problem of society. And that is what we're building. Weak men. And you know what weak men do to what society builds? And how, you know, we don't, the left sits there and praises mental illness and, you know, don't stigmatize it. Be proud of who you are. Mental illness isn't all, but then we don't take care of it. And we know through interviews from people that knew this kid that he was making videos of killing cats. His girlfriend, one of his ex-girlfriends, said that he was scary. He cut his face for fun. There were definitely red flags that this kid was troubled and needed to be put in a mental institution. There were so many things that could have been done to prevent this from happening. Banning guns, changing the law, taking away our Second Amendment right of people who abide by the law would not have prevented this. Would not. It just wouldn't have done it. But getting this kid help when you first started seeing the signs of it, having parents involved in their kids' lives, knowing what's going on, and not allowing them to just run amok and do whatever they want and be like, I had no clue. apparently his grandfather said he had no clue that he had guns. How did you not know? He lived in your home. This is a lack of proper raising of children. Really. This is society saying that parents shouldn't be able to have rules for their kids, and that kids have rights and they should be able to do what they want, and parents shouldn't infringe on those rights. That's why you have parents. To teach you right from wrong, to be involved, to tell you no when something is not a good idea, and to not allow you to do certain things, to protect you from things that are bad. And now we have parents who don't even want to do that. They're just like, well, they have rights, and if that's what they want to do, you should let them do it. The biggest problem was taking God out of society. Removing God from schools, removing God from the culture, removing him from the family home. That is also a huge problem, and it's the biggest problem that has cultivated this type of society, where these things happen frequently, more frequently than ever before, because we just don't care. We don't care about the criminals. We let them do whatever they want. They don't get arrested. They can go and break into jewelry stores and steal everything in there and rob them blind, and they can't do anything about it. They can sit there on the street and shoot up drugs and, poop on the street, do whatever they want, even have sex out in the middle of the street in California, San Francisco. That's totally fine. That is normal. What do you expect is going to happen? But all they want to do is punish people who abide by the law, rather than actually tackle the real problem and have real solutions for it. Because they don't care. They don't care about this kid. They don't care about the innocent people that died. They don't care about you or me. They care about money, power, and control. And every time these happen, they use it to their advantage to try and change the laws and take away your right to protect yourself and your family. It's very irritating. So, let's talk about myths about guns, since this is what they're trying to do right now. In fact, in this one, I'll go ahead and look at it, because Justin Trudeau is banning new ownership of handguns, and he will also require all military-style assault weapons to be turned over via mandatory buyback. So there's no legal definition of a military-style assault weapon, but Trudeau said that, quote, the government would seek to come up with one that could not be easily circumvented by gun makers. This sweeping legislation is possible because there is no constitutional protection for gun ownership in Canada. And in a 1993 decision, the Canadian Supreme Court ruled that, quote, Canadians, unlike Americans, do not have a constitutional right to bear arms. So regarding his legislation, of course, Trudeau made it a point to shame America, saying, quote, we need only look south of the border to know that if we do not take action firmly and rapidly, it gets worse and worse and more difficult to counter. American gun rights are enshrined in the Constitution, but also pragmatic. So when things go south in America, no one is coming to save us. America is the last line of defense, and that right is only one vote away from disappearing. The dissenting opinion in D.C. versus Heller held that, quote, the amendment states its purpose specifically in relation to state militias and does not address the right to use firearms in self-defense. So that's what they say. So, here are some myths, okay? Fact number 1. In 2021, there were an estimated 1.67 million uses of firearms in defense situations. By contrast, CDC data from 2020 showed only 19,384 gun homicides. Fast fact number 2, 94% of mass shootings take place in gun-free zones. Texas law generally prohibits possessing a firearm on school grounds, which is why shooters go to these gun-free zones, because they know they can go in unopposed. They're not likely to go where they know other people may have guns. So, claim number 1. This shooting is the fault of the gun lobby. Truth number 1, nobody from the gun lobby shot anyone. And truth number 2, the gun lobby is far less influential than leftists portray. So in 2021, gun rights lobbyists spent a total of $15.8 million, and this is a minuscule amount compared to other industries like pharmaceuticals spent $356.6 million, electronics $179 million, and insurance $153 million. Claim number 2, we are the only country where this happens. So truth number 1, we are not the country with the most violent crime. Murder rates per 100,000 from 2018. El Salvador, 52. Jamaica, 43. Lesotho, 43. And Honduras, 38. Where does America land on this list? Less than 5 homicides per 100,000. Truth number 2, we are not the country with the most mass shootings per capita, even among first world countries. So the death rate per million between 2009 and 2015, Norway was number 1 at 1.9, Serbia was number 2 at 0.4, Macedonia at 0.3, and the United States is number 11th on that list at 0.09. Claim number 3, common sense gun control would have prevented this shooting. So the truth, Texas already requires background checks. Customers at licensed gun dealers in the state of Texas are required to pass an FBI background check. The shooter bought his weapon from such a dealer. We've shown you on this program, and you can go watch it. They've shown on Louder with Crowder how those background checks go. Truth number 2, Texas schools are already gun-free zones, and this doesn't protect potential victims. It only emboldens potential criminals. Claim number 4, assault weapons are to blame. Truth number 1, gun violence was on a downward trajectory before the 1994 ban, and it has continued to fall even after the ban expired in 2004. Truth number 2, handguns still account for far more deaths than assault weapons each year. 59% attributed to handguns, only 3% attributed to rifles of any sort. Truth number 3, banning high-capacity magazines doesn't stop mass shootings. States with high magazine bans include New York, California, D.C., New Jersey, and Colorado. Mass shootings still occur in these places. You had the recent Buffalo, New York shooting, the Brooklyn subway terrorist, the church shooting in California, the D.C. sniper shooting, Bridgeton, New Jersey, and Boulder, Colorado. 4 of those were just within the past couple of months. Truth number 4, countries in Europe have strict bans on firearms, yet still experience mass casualty events. Ban firearms, and people will still find ways to kill others, and no one will have any guns to defend themselves. And claim number 5, the Second Amendment doesn't protect assault weapons. Truth number 1, it absolutely protects assault weapons. The founders were well aware of the potential improvements to come in firearm technology. The puckle gun, the Girandoni air rifle, Belton flintlock, the pepperbox revolver, and cannons were covered by the Second Amendment. Truth number 2, the Second Amendment isn't just for the militia, the way the left frames it. So it says, a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So, George Mason once said, quote, I ask, sir, what is the militia? It is the whole people except for a few public officials. So the militia is we the people. That is what it is. And the left tries to frame it backwards. In James Madison's letter of Marquis, he explains the right to arm private vessels with cannons. And the Second Amendment was written so private citizens could be armed if the need arose for them to form a militia to defend their rights. So, there's your myths that the left always uses about guns, and all of the sources for the truth of how you can debunk their myths about guns. I would suggest you go and study that and memorize all of that. Okay, so moving on from that, I don't want to talk about that anymore. Let's talk about the school librarian that defended inappropriate prostitution book because, quote, kids might be sex workers. So this is by Joseph Gunderson, and it says, it has been a minute since the last time Loudoun County Schools has made it into a louderwithcrowder.com post. But seriously, it was only a matter of time before someone over there pulled some woke stunt or pushed the radical leftist agenda again. Of course, there's always the chance there's a sex-related scandal too. This might fall into a number of those categories. After being reported by an anonymous concerned teacher, a librarian at Sterling Middle School in Loudoun County is being investigated over her comments relating to an inappropriate book stocked in the library. According to the Post-Millennial, Stephanie Guido was confronted by a teacher regarding a book called Seeing Gender, An Illustrated Guide to Identity and Expression. That title is already enough to make stocking it in a library an act of pushing woke indoctrination and LGBTQ plus brainwashing on small children, but if you can believe it, it gets worse. The book also contains a chapter called Sex Work is Not a Bad Term, in which it explains that being a sex worker is perfectly fine and on par with other forms of employment as far as legitimacy. Good Lord. So here is a picture from Twitter from the book. It says, sex work is a broad term used to describe exchanges of sex or sexual activity. Sex work is also used as a non-stigmatizing term for prostitution. Using the term sex work reinforces the idea that sex work is work and allows for greater discussion of labor rights and conditions. Not every person in the sex trade defines themselves as a sex worker or their sexual exchange as work. Some may not regard what they do as labor at all, but simply a means to get what they need. Others may be operating within legal working conditions, such as pornography or exotic dancing, and wish to avoid the negative associations with illegal or informal forms of sex work. In addition to the exchange of money for sexual services, a person may exchange sex or sexual activity for things they need or want, such as food, housing, hormones, drugs, gifts, or other resources. Survival sex is a term used by many nonprofit organizations and researchers to describe trading sex for survival needs. Okay. One important thing to note is that sex work is work. It's a job like being a store clerk, an architect, or a freelance writer. We all unfortunately have to do work to make a living. Some of us hate our jobs and some of us love them. The same goes for those who do sex work. Sadly, sex work is generally misunderstood, judged, and criminalized, and it's often dangerous for those who do it, regardless of whether it's out of enjoyment, necessity, or both. It's important not to conflate sex work and sex trafficking. There's a vital difference between the two. Sex work is a consensual exchange between adults. Sex trafficking is a human rights violation that uses violence, abduction, or coercion to sexually exploit vulnerable people. Sex workers do not condone sex trafficking, except I think that there are a lot of sex workers who have their pimps that coerce them to do the sex work so they can make the money, right? Sex work is a very divisive issue. Some believe it perpetuates oppression, sexual violence, and the commodification of women's bodies, while others believe sex work is a legitimate form of work that consensual sexual expression should not be vilified for going against heteronormative standards. It's a complicated subject and is closely tied to intersectionality. The reason one might have for getting into this line of work and the experiences they might have can vary widely depending on race, gender, class, geographical region, and mental health. Positions range from high-end escorts who can pull in $500,000 a year to street workers. And I can't read the rest of it. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. I don't... Go to Walmart. They're hiring. McDonald's. Anyway. Sex work... so we already read that. Anyway. Celebrated? I'd like to know when being a prostitute was celebrated. They were still attempting to stone adulterous women in the Bible, so I find this position difficult to believe, but I digress. When confronted about the book by another faculty member, Guido defended the decision to stock the book, arguing that children involved in sex work would feel validated by the book's content. Quote, she started talking about how there's kids who come to the library who do sex work, and this makes them feel validated, the anonymous teacher told the police. So, this librarian is 1, pushing woke nonsense on students, 2, promoting sex work as viable career path, and 3, potentially has knowledge of a middle schooler engaging in sex work. I understand Loudoun County wanted to get back into the headlines, but this librarian went for broke. Guido is being investigated. I certainly hope there are no middle school students engaging in prostitution or any other form of sex work, but if the librarian is found to have knowledge of such things and she didn't report it, only a long jail sentence will do. I mean, it sounds like she knows somebody that's doing it. In fact, where was that one at? I thought I had one up. No, maybe not. Okay. Oh, yeah, there was a teacher who's being investigated for sending an inappropriate message to a student she found out liked her. So this I saw, it sounded like a crazy story, so I wanted to look at it. A man disguised as woman in wheelchair attacks the Mona Lisa. His rationale is crazier than you'd expect. And this is by Brodigan, so it's probably going to be funny. I'm not an art guy. Museums bore the bejesus out of me. But I would like to think I'd have some respect for the Mona Lisa, arguably one of the most famous paintings of all time. One crazy person did not show Miss Lisa the respect she deserves and is attacking caught on someone's smartphone. The Louvre has not seen this much excitement since Scott beat up the robot mime in Eurotrip. So someone tweeted out, maybe this is just nuts to me, but a man dressed as an old lady jumps out of a wheelchair and attempted to smash the bulletproof glass of the Mona Lisa, then proceeds to smear cake on the glass and throws roses everywhere, all before being tackled by security. So let's check it out. Oh.
No way!
Oh, okay, it's just a short little video. Let's go through the plan. Some dude woke up in the morning and decided he really hated the Mona Lisa. He looked around his flat and saw a wheelchair, some birthday cake, and a wig from when he dressed up as one of the Spice Girls. Hey, that's what I'll do, he thought. I'll pretend to be confined to a wheelchair so I can get up close, and when I get to the front, I'll smear cake on the Mona Lisa's smug, judgmental face, and trusting like a woman, it just feels right. The only lingering question is why one man could be so angry at a painting that he'd go through the trouble of such performative outrage. It's as if maybe, just maybe, our assailant could have another motive, an ideology or political stance, if you will. Think of the earth. There are people who are destroying the earth. Think about it. Artists tell you, think of the earth. That's why I did this. He is a climate nut. Now it makes all the sense in the world. I'm sure everyone in attendance thought of the earth. Then they thought about what a clown this guy was. I don't like to cuss. So he did it because of climate change? I'm not even sure how that makes any sense. Yeah, see, there it is. Warrant issued after middle school teacher sends inappropriate messages to student she heard liked her. I don't care. Let's talk about the BBC. So they edited a quote from a rape victim when the victim used wrong pronoun for the attacker, which is just nuts to me because who cares? If they attacked somebody, they don't deserve to have their pronouns used. It is astonishing how many men who claim to be women, transgenders, the left likes to call them, turn out to be violent rapists of actual women. And while the left attempts to square that circle, how a woman with a penis manages to rape an actual woman with a vagina, most of them probably wouldn't put the feelings of the rapist over the testimony of the rape victim. Unless, of course, it's the BBC. Then they have to take special care not to misgender the rapist. This is exactly what happened when the BBC revised the quotations included in a 2021 story about an allegedly transgender woman who forced himself on a lesbian woman. As reported by the Daily Caller, the quote now reads, "They threatened to out me as a TERF and risk my job if I refused to sleep with them." The purportedly altered victim quote read, "I was too young to argue and had been brainwashed by queer theory, so they were a woman, even if every fiber of my being was screaming throughout, so I agreed to go home with them. They used physical force when I changed my mind upon seeing their penis and raped me." Those theys and thems were originally male pronouns, but the woke bros at the news website wanted to make them female because of misgendering. As an English major, it already makes me want to vomit the way that woke tards butcher the English language, but the fact that they did so while changing the testimony of a rape victim telling her story in order to spare the feelings of a violent rapist is enough to make anyone see red. The BBC didn't respond to the caller, but then what exactly could they say to defend such idiocy? That's what I'm talking about. We are such in a decline that we are more worried about protecting the feelings of a man who raped a woman. Who cares about the victim, right? We only care about the feelings of the transgenders. It absolutely blows my mind. It's disgusting. Another story here from Blaze Media about a shooting at a high school graduation. This is by Sarah Taylor. 3 people were shot during a high school graduation ceremony at Xavier University in New Orleans, Louisiana on Tuesday afternoon. According to reports, gunfire broke out in the parking lot as 2 women began fighting. One elderly woman was struck and killed. 2 other victims, both male, were also hit but are expected to recover. One witness told WDSU-TV that it was his friend's grandmother who lost her life following the ceremony. Quote, "She got shot right there in the street like she was a dog or something." The witness said, recalling at least 24 shots ringing out as panicked graduates and their families fled from the source of the shooting. Another witness added, quote, "We just heard gunshots. They were fighting. My cousin said, they were fighting over there. Let's go. And then I heard gunshots." New Orleans Police Department Deputy Superintendent Christopher Goodley condemned the shooting as a senseless act of violence. "This did not have to happen," Goodley added. "We had a good amount of security here, interior coverage and exterior coverage." Xavier police were on the scene along with 2nd District Police. 3 suspects were detained in the shooting, but no arrests have been made at the time of this reporting. An investigation into the incident is ongoing. So what else do we know? New Orleans Public School Superintendent Dr. Henderson Lewis Jr. expressed his anguish in a statement, quote, "I am outraged and saddened by the callousness shown today outside Xavier University. The graduating seniors of Morris Jeff were there to share in their collective achievements and bask in the brightness of their futures, only to have their optimism ripped apart by gun violence. This has got to stop. We must come together as a community, as a country, and address the damage caused by access to guns and to get the root of anger and despair that compels individuals to even think of harming others. All our children have a right to be safe, and we must do all we can in our power to protect that right. My heart breaks for the families of the victims, and I implore us all to rally around them in their time of need." And while I agree that it's senseless and we need to come together as a country to figure out how to prevent these things from happening, it is not damage caused by access to guns, because access to guns will always be there for criminals. They will get what they want because they don't follow the law. And I don't know how many times it can be said. When is the last time that a law has been implemented and a criminal has said, "Oh yeah, I'm not going to break that law," because they break laws. That's what a criminal does. It's so stupid. Anyway, so here's another tragedy that's happened where there's another shooting and they're going to go back to we got to take away your guns, But we clearly see that if they are successful in achieving that, of taking away the guns of private citizens who follow the law, you can't depend on the police to protect you, because they're not going to do it. We saw a blatant display of police not doing their job to protect innocent life from a gunman. You can't depend on police. You can't depend on anybody else. In fact, there was a video of on a subway of a black man yelling out, walking down, and he sits down next to these 2 women, and one gets up and leaves, and the other one gets up to move away, and he grabs her by the hair and pulls her back down and tells her to sit. And she's sitting there pleading for someone to help her, and no one's doing anything. They're just allowing him to do this to her while filming it. And then he tells her to get up, and she gets up, and he walks her to the front of the subway and then kind of shoves her and then walks away. Fortunately, nothing happened to her, and she didn't get hurt. But why are we sitting there allowing bad people to do whatever they want? I don't get it. Since when did we not stand up for people and try to protect people when someone is doing wrong? So you can't depend on the police. You can't depend on private citizens sitting there watching something happen to you to help you out. So you just got to do it yourself. And if we don't fight against them trying to take away our gun rights, we will be helpless to even defend ourselves. And there will be nothing you can do to protect yourself anymore. But I don't want to end on a dark note. So, I will cover this last story. Mark Wahlberg. So I talked about him before and how he's not afraid to talk about God and his faith and praying. And I know he's Catholic and I don't believe in the Catholic faith, but I do appreciate him speaking out. So he congratulated his son and all the young people committing their lives to God by Phil Schreiber. And I thought this was just something to end a note on because I said, this is what we need to do. We need to bring God back into our homes, our communities, our schools, and start looking back to God and, trusting in Him rather than in the government. Because that's what the government wants. They wanted to get rid of God because they want to be your God. And when they see that we're not looking to them to be our God, but we're actually looking to God because that's who we're supposed to be looking for, they don't like it. And it angers them because they want to be in that position. They don't want you to depend on God for the things that you need and protection. They want you to depend on them. And they are trying so hard to achieve that. And that includes the WHO pandemic treaty that barely anybody's been talking about. So it says, Academy Award nominated actor and devout Catholic Mark Wahlberg recently took to social media to congratulate his son and all the young people who have committed their lives to God. In a video post on Instagram, Wahlberg, who is currently in Europe filming the Netflix movie Our Man from Jersey, shared how proud he is of his son for making his Catholic confirmation. Quote, "Just got down on my hands and knees to express my gratitude," the actor said as he knelt by his bed. "Congratulations to my son Michael on making his confirmation and all the young people out there who were confirmed and taking their relationship with the Lord into their adulthood. What a commitment you guys have made. Congratulations to all of you," he added, noting he had just finished listening to a beautiful prayer on the Hallow app. So I want to watch it.
Oh, good morning from Europe. Just got down on my hands and my knees to express my gratitude on this beautiful day. Congratulations to my son Michael for making his confirmation. All the young people out there who are confirmed and taking their relationship with the Lord into their adulthood. What a commitment you guys have made. Congratulations to all of you. Just listened to a beautiful prayer on the Hallow app, and also just got an alert that the Celtics won. Lots of prayers and answers today. God bless you. God bless you all.
Great. In a separate post, Wahlberg shared a picture of his son Michael at his confirmation, joined by his wife, Ray Durham. "So proud of this young man. Congrats, buddy. Even though mommy deserves most of the credit. Thanks, babe," he wrote in the caption. So, Wahlberg has been outspoken about his faith for years, and not to mention Chris Pratt. To mention Chris Pratt is also one of those that really is outspoken about his faith. And I think Chris Pratt is a little closer to my beliefs of faith. I don't think he's Catholic. I'm not exactly sure, but I think he's a little closer to what I believe. Maybe a little off. In April, he told the Today Show that he doesn't force religion on his children, but hopes they will ultimately follow after the example he has set. "They think Dad's crazy and he's boring," he joked, "but even with my faith, I don't force it on them. But they know that Dad can't start the day without being in prayer, can't start the day without reading my scripture or going to Mass, and hopefully, instead of forcing that on them, they'll say, well, if it works for Dad, maybe it'll work for us, and they'll kind of gravitate towards it on their own." The actor claims that he regularly goes to Mass on Sunday and sometimes twice, and in recent years he has felt more of a calling to make movies that will encourage people in their relationship with God. His first faith-based film, Father Stu, debuted in April on Good Friday. In a promotional interview, he told PureFlix Insider that the film, which is based on the true story of a boxer-turned-priest's journey from destruction to redemption, resonated with him personally because he saw much of himself in the story's key figure. Quote, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. I have been focused since I was 16, 17 years old to turning my life around, and that is a daily task. God has continued to bless me and put me in this situation to continue to grow and work on Mark Wahlberg the person, but to do his work and finally giving me the skills and tools to go out and articulate the message he wants me to articulate. He added, people need to have faith and hope. Young men need to know what it's like to be a real man. And you could list a million reasons. Just turn on the news. Anywhere you look, there are reasons for encouraging people to have faith and to have hope. And I think that is a great positive message to end on. Mark Wahlberg wanting to teach young boys how to be real men and to have faith and hope. Everybody. Huge positive message. And I hope that he never turns away from being outspoken about that. Hope Chris Pratt stays the same way. I hope more people in positions of, having huge platforms like they have that can reach lots of people will start opening up. I know they're not the only ones in Hollywood and that have large platforms. I know they're not the only ones. But there's very few in those positions that will speak out for being afraid of what will be said about them or not getting work or whatever. Promise you, Daily Wire will take you if Hollywood cancels you. Just go there. You'd be better off. Anyway, I'm going to end the episode here. I hope you had a good time with me today. Please go find me on Rumble. I just got to say something in YouTube. Right now, I'm not doing the audio only. I'm just doing YouTube and Rumble right now. You can go and share my videos, like them, watch all of them, leave me some comments. That would be really great. Subscribe to the channel on both YouTube and Rumble because you never know when they may be taken down off of YouTube, but Rumble doesn't do that. So that's why I started going back and uploading on Rumble, even though I don't really like it because I don't like it's not user-friendly like YouTube. It's harder for me to get used to. Anyway, please go do that and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. Also, I will probably be posting something like a video or something later today if the jury comes back with a verdict for the Johnny Depp Amber Heard hearing. I'm not sure why it's taken so long. I would have thought that they would have had a verdict on Friday after closing arguments because I felt like it's very obvious who was telling the truth. But maybe it's not as obvious to them. I don't know. I don't know what could possibly be taking this long. So I'm just hoping and praying that they come back with a verdict today. I'm tired of waiting. But I do appreciate that they're being at least diligent in their deliberation. And I hope that it comes back in favor of Johnny because I think it sends a message that, like I've said, it's a cultural thing. It's a huge story, other than just Johnny Depp personally, but for men that are victims of abuse, or not even victims of abuse, but even victims of women making up lies about them. The lies that she has said, if they were true, the things that she said happened to her are monstrous and horrific. But we have been shown proof time and time again she's a liar, and she's never provided any proof of the stories that she's told that he did to her. And so even if they're not a victim of abuse, but victim of a woman just making up horrific lies about them to destroy them for whatever reason they have, whatever their motive is, even that is significant to talk about. Because I personally know a story like that. It's not a horrific, horrendous, with a broken bottle type of story. But nevertheless, it was a lie. And it could have ruined a man's life. So, I think that's even something to consider. So, if the verdict comes out today, I'll probably pop something up on Facebook Live or Instagram or something like that. And go follow me on all my social media. My link tree is always in the descriptions, and I always have all of my sources listed in the descriptions as well. So I hope you have a good rest of your day, and God bless.